Thank you for listening and welcome to the Life Podcast. I'm your host, Don Smith. On this episode, powerhouse filmmaker William Lee joins us in the studio to discuss filmmaking and to talk about his latest Redbox release, 6 Feet Below Hell. If you enjoy the show, check out DonSmithComedy.com or tune in live on Wednesdays from noon to 2 p.m. on WWSU 106.9 FM, or you can stream the show live at WWSU1069.org. All right, we're back on The Life. I'm your host, Don Smith. We have kicked the comedians out of the studio. I had enough.
Yes.
We had enough chapter
Yes.
talk. No, chapter's a great show. It is a good place to go for comics to go learn how to bomb. And if you ever want to go see a comic really do poorly, you will. If like Dale said, if there are 10 people there, 5 of them will be okay. Sitting in the studio now, powerhouse film director, filmmaker William Lee, who I can't even begin to list all the films he's made because I don't even know all of them. Most recently, out on Redbox as of last Tuesday,
Right.
6 Feet Below Hell is out there.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about how you got into filmmaking. And you don't have to tell me how long ago.
That's how I usually start out.
I know it's been a while.
Yeah. Filmmaking, for me, really seemed like a natural process. My father was a World War II vet. He was one of the first black soldiers to actually go into the concentration camps and rescue Holocaust survivors.
Wow.
He developed an interest in photography at that time, and we started out with the old Polaroids. You take the picture, you pull the strip, and you rub the wand over it, and you wait for however long it was for the picture to develop, and that sort of cued my interest. In the late '60s, we moved from New York to Dayton, Ohio, as a matter of fact. So this is sort of a roundabout trip for me, actually.
Oh, okay.
And he, at that time, was an aircraft engineer, and again, continued his interest in photography. When we would travel the Pennsylvania Turnpike from New York to Ohio, we'd stop, take pictures, out on there, landscapes, portraits, whatever. So finally, during elementary school, I had a teacher in art class give us a strip of film. We painted images on it. And I'm going, what are we doing? I don't get, what is the point of doing this? Well, then she put it through a projector, and the images began to move on the screen. And I was like, oh, okay, This is pretty cool here. So that interest, like I said, developed at a really early age. And then in 1973, I saw Bruce Lee, and the rest is history. Seriously, that was a major change in my life, because as a kid from New York who spoke differently than the kids here and acted differently than the kids here, and who had a different upbringing from the kids here in Dayton, I was pretty much an outcast. Had very few friends. They didn't quite understand what to do with me, I guess is the best way to put it. And so I just had to develop my own sphere of creativity, and my friends were people that I wrote up as characters in scripts. And so I spent a lot of time behind the typewriter in my bedroom. I don't want to make it sound like I was a hermit or anything, because I was socially active, but it was just that, the times when I went home, it wasn't like I had a bunch of running buddies to hang out with. I played baseball, football with the local area kids. But for me, my world was writing scripts and making characters come to life. And so my wife, I always joke with her. I said, I always have these voices in my head, and these are characters saying, "Hey, Will, it's time for another script. Here's what we want to do." Basically, is what it sets out to be. So that's a long and short of it.
Yeah, I haven't written anything in a long time to get the voices.
You don't want them.
I understand what you mean.
You don't want them because they come around at 3:00 in the morning. Hey, I got an idea, and I'm like, dude, I got to get up in 2 hours. Please,
I'll do that. I'll do right in a comedy set.
Right.
I'll do that as soon as I'm ready to go to bed, because I'll just think of something, I'll write it down, I'll go to bed, and no, that's a better way to do it. And it's back up, and the wife's like, "What the heck are you doing?" So I understand where you're coming from on that. Yeah. About how old were you when you started doing that?
Obviously, I was in grade school for the art teacher thing.
Right.
Elementary school in Dayton.
Young.
Yeah. The actual involvement in film came right as I began my high school years, because I was getting bullied a lot. And people, like I said, people just did not understand where I was coming from.
Right. And
so I'd get chased home, rocks would be thrown at me. Just a lot of really nasty stuff went on. And on the other hand, we in the black community have this thing about acting white or acting black, which is really an amazing phenomenon because there seems to be this stereotype within the black community itself about how you're supposed to carry yourself, what you're supposed to do, the music you're supposed to like, the people you're supposed to talk to. And it was really strange for me because coming from New York with a multicultural background, I grew up with Italian wise guys. I'm sorry. And, that was my neighborhood. It was Vin and Sal and hey, you doing over there, guy, and all that kind of thing. So I was always used to having a lot of people of a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different colors. And so now I was in a situation where people saying, well, you're trying to be too white. I was like, no, I'm just trying to be successful at what I do.
I'd imagine then things were much more segregated here than
when we first came to Ohio, as a matter of fact, my father had difficulty finding a hotel room for us to stay in when we, it was insane. People think that racism in the 50s and 60s is so long ago. I mean, I can still remember as a baby, my father going to the door of a hotel and, we're getting all kind of reasons why we couldn't stay there, even though the segregation thing had started to take place in the late 50s,
Right, getting all kinds of excuses.
Oh, yeah, it was like, we don't have enough room, or we're booked tonight, or whatever, that kind of thing. So I had that kind of dichotomy of, yes, I'm a black man doing black things, but still being unaccepted by the people that I was supposedly representing. And so it sort of carried over a little bit into filmmaking because people expect from a black filmmaker to make black films, which is something that really irritates me. I am not Spike Lee. I hate to tell everyone. Right. I like to do action adventure films. I like to have fun when I'm making films. And although I can stick in a political statement within the body of a film, really, if you're expecting really deep, serious romantic comedies from me, I hate to disappoint you. That's not how I was built. That's just not going to happen. So I have made it a point to engage in what I call colorblind casting. I'll write a script. It's gender blind as well.
Right.
I'll write a script. I'll write the characters out. I'll have a vague idea of who I want or how I want the character to be. But if I receive an audition tape from an actor or an actress that blows me away and they've done a role that it wasn't specifically written for, they'll get the part. There's no doubt about it. I never pigeonhole myself into I've got to have, so-and-so, a guy for the general,
Right.
And as you know, participating in the last few films, women are always in very strong roles in my films. I mean, they could,
absolutely.
A lot of my, like we were joking about 6 Feet Below Hell is like the most killings in the film were done by women. I mean, the guys did not get a fair share in killing zombies in this one. The ladies were just tearing it up. So, yeah.
Well, Reggie didn't get to kill a single zombie. Well,
you did. You shot the one, but it was a glancing shot. Yeah. And then we cut the film because we didn't want people to know you weren't, in that situation. So, yeah.
A lot of fun, though.
It was.
I watched it again. That's what I was telling the guys in here. I was a little tired this morning because I stayed up last night after I got off work. I got home about midnight, and I stayed up and watched 6 Feet Below Hell again.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. And the funny thing about that film was I did not want to do this movie. I can tell you that people don't understand in the film world is a lot of times what you do in terms of your creativity is not always governed by how you feel or what you want to do.
Right.
Consistently, you'll go to a production group or a set of investors or distributors, and you'll say, well, hey, here's what I want to do, ABC. And they'll go, no, we want to do DEF. So now your choice is, do you want to maintain your artistic integrity and starve, or do you want to do this film that they want and pay your bills? I have been able to sort of cross those two worlds where I'm able to maintain my artistic integrity, but make it commercial enough that it pleases the people that are giving me the money to do these films. And that's not an easy thing to do. You have to tread some fine lines. And in fact, you have to do some things that the money men don't realize you're doing. You have to sneak things in. For instance, they'll ask for a particular cut or whatever in the film, and you nod your head and say, yes, you don't do it. And then it gets released, and they're like, well, okay.
Yeah, too late now.
There it goes. People are buying it. Let the guy go. What the hell? So, yeah.
So, is there a reason you didn't want to do it, or is it just the zombie genre?
I am not a big fan of zombie films.
Yeah.
When I was young, I was. Dawn of the Dead and the original George Romero films I thought were awesome because at that time it wasn't overdone like it is now. Everybody's doing zombie films like that's like.
Well, there's zombie TV shows
well, there you go.
and right, which
yeah,
I've never been able to get to.
And the bigger issue too was when we did this film, the poster was created for the film, and it really doesn't tell the story of our movie, but the thinking is that, well, since zombies are popular, this is going to attract people to the film. My problem is that I didn't want people going in expecting a traditional zombie film, and then they get in there and there's kung fu and military weapons and comedy in the film too. But on the other hand, I think that's really good because I think people are pleasantly surprised that it's just not another zombie movie.
Right. You were able to put a different spin on it because I've watched a handful of your movies, and there's a lot of those have come into the zombie scenario with 6 Feet Below Hell, which makes it much better than just it's zombies. Gotta love that.
Yeah, I rented another movie from Redbox last night, and for the life of me, I can't remember it, but it's the other zombie movie that is currently running alongside ours. And I just I always like to see what the competition's doing,
right?
And I thought it was really good. I mean, it was still a straightforward zombie flick, but there was actually a story to it. It wasn't just people running and screaming and being eaten. They were having a crisis of conscience. One of the people in this group was immune to the zombie plague. So he was being pursued by the military because they wanted to obviously take his DNA and develop a vaccine for it, which I thought was pretty cool. The trailer was magnificent. The only thing it lacked was the action part of it. And as you know, that's my thing. So while I enjoyed the film, I was like, I just saw so many things that they could have done to make that movie just over the top in terms of, because the guy was a Jason Bourne type character, but he couldn't do the Jason Bourne action. So it was like, okay, well, you gave it a try, but it wasn't quite where it needed to be. So,
well, yeah, traditional zombie lore, you got to disconnect the brainstem and all that, and it's hard to do with fighting.
Exactly.
You about have to use a gun.
Yes.
Or in some cases a croquet mallet.
Yeah, that's it. And that was probably the best weapon to do the job. I was tickled by one of our actresses. She played a zombie in numerous roles in the film, and she said, "Well, I showed the film to my kids, and they didn't really care for the zombies, but they loved the kung fu, and they loved your jokes." And I was like, what? I was like, really? Which is cool, because, I mean, really, that's sort of what I was going for. I really didn't want it to be a zombie-centric film where that was what you were there for. I wanted people to come in and go, wait a minute, this is something, this is a little different spin here. And that's the feedback I've been getting, actually, is people like pleasantly surprised that we didn't just go for the gore and the guts and all that kind of thing. And it's more of an action film.
Right. Yeah, there really isn't that much gore in there.
Right.
Which is nice, because I know a lot of people that like watching movies that I'm in. My friends and family, some of them aren't big fans of gore.
Right.
So.
Right. And it was interesting too, right before we went into production, the Walking Dead TV series had a sort of a crisis in itself, because I think there was a major character was killed off, and I guess it was pretty brutal, the stuff they showed.
Oh, really?
And there was a lot of backlash from the audience about that. And so that now they went to showing the killing off screen, or just not showing it at all, just implying that it happened, which to me was really interesting, because I thought that was going to be an issue for our film. People were going to say, we didn't get enough guts. And, but now it seems that, I don't want to say people are burned out on it, but maybe they are. Maybe they want to see something that's sort of turning the corner on this thing, and maybe we hit it just at the right time.
Well, I think it's nice to have more of a story than just relying on that kind of thing, because that's one of the reasons that I'm a fan of independent film in general, is because there has to be a story there. Yeah. With a lot of the Hollywood movies, they rely on special effects, and there's just, they can cut out stuff in the story, and really they'll still make a big money movie.
Yes, they will.
But
lots of explosions and that kind of thing,
which is cool.
Yeah,
but at the same time, if there's no story, then it's just an explosion.
Right. Story's number one. I mean, every time I give a seminar on filmmaking, or filmmakers ask me about the process of filmmaking, I said, well, story's number one, and I don't care how many special effects you got, or what B movie star you just flew in from Los Angeles, or the special effects pack you bought, or that magnificent Airflex camera you have. You know what? All that doesn't mean crap if the story sucks. You've got to engage the audience, first of all. They have to care about what you're doing. And I just get tickled all the time when I go on these regional movie pages, and these filmmakers, hey, we just got in a new Airflex, blah, blah, blah. Man, we're going to really have a great film. I'm like, you're really putting the cart before the horse here. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, you got a great camera package, but you don't have a script, for one thing.
Right. You
got a general idea what you want to do, and you know it's going to be cool. Well, sorry, guys, that's probably not going to get you sold and get you out there. So
you write all your own scripts, I'm trying to get some of the process. I mean, as far as you go to the investors, they say this is the movie we want, and you have to cater your script to.
Well, sometimes it works differently. Sometimes the investors come to you with a general outline, like, here's what we want to do. Go write the script.
Because I know 3 Knee Deep.
Three Knee Deep,
which was out on Redbox about a year and a half ago.
Three Knee Deep was a very unique experience. They had the poster was actually done before it was even pitched to us. Right. And then I get the poster, and the first thing I'm told is, okay, here's your next movie. So I'm sitting there looking at this poster. I wasn't on the poster to begin with, and neither was Angela Williams, who was, it was two different people. And I say, okay, so we're making a movie about two people I don't know. He said, no, you don't understand. We're going to superimpose your head on the characters once we get it written and done. So I'm like, okay, so basically we're doing a movie that's already done, but it's not. Okay, whatever. So anyway, I was given a general outline about what they wanted in the film, and I basically had free reign to come up with the storyline, the characters. Everything was just left up to me. I got the script done in about a week and a half, I think it was. I think we shot that trailer. Oh, we just did it the week after I got the news we were doing the film. So we went to
the teaser.
Yeah, so we went to a warehouse in Cincinnati, had 5 or 10 actors. And I basically said, okay, now run at the camera with a gun and fire a couple times and look mean. And, that was it, And then I did a 20-minute speech in my horrible Jamaican accent, and we cut that in with the action, and voila, you got a Redbox release. So there you go.
Which is what counts.
It does. I don't want to make it sound like that this is just something anyone can do. You got to have the right breaks. You got to know the right people. Our relationship with our sales guy was cultivated over a 12-year period. And in fact, I met him, I think it was 2004 was when we first met, and it was actually over the phone and through email. And we had off and on over the 16 years of knowing each other talked about getting films distributed, and it never came together. So finally, I think it was 2011, we had a movie called Army from Hell, which was basically I'm playing Jesus and I'm really hacked off and I'm coming back to Earth to whip zombies' butts.
Which sounds great.
Yeah. So I cut a trailer together, and it featured Joe Estevez, who was the brother of Charlie Sheen.
Martin Sheen.
Yeah. Uncle of Charlie Sheen. And he went crazy. He called me up and said, Will, we got to get this out there. This is phenomenal. So you just never know how that moment when you finally cross over and make it is going to happen. There's no planning to it. I mean, you can go to all the film schools you want. You can make all the short films and so-called low-budget feature films you want. There's no way to really plan for that moment. But what I tell people is you got to be ready every minute. So for those 12, 13 years that we were just talking about stuff, I had to be ready to go. So when the poster from 3 Knee Deep came, I couldn't say to him, you know what, I can't do this, dude. I'm not ready. No, that's not the answer. The answer is, when do you want this? I tell filmmakers all the time, the answer has to be, when the question is asked, the answer has to be, when do you want it? It can't be, well, I can't get, or I don't have, or I couldn't, or I'm busy with. Those answers will end your career in a second. So you just have to be ready to go. It's just like when I cast actors and actresses. I tell them, when I send you an audition to do for me, and I say I need you to tape it and do it, I don't want to hear, well, my best buddy is not in town right now, so I can't tape it, or I don't have a really good camera right now, or I'm going to need a couple of days until. You know what you do? You take up these wonderful camera phones, which have excellent HD quality. You take the script I just gave you. 20 minutes after I give it to you, you sit down in front of that camera and you tape your damn audition and you send it to me. And it's like, people don't understand that when I get an email every 2 days about, well, I'm getting around to it, or I almost have it, or I'll be doing it soon. It enrages me. And it's not because I am being a jerk or an a-hole, which I have been said that I am indeed the worst a-hole around.
I've heard that.
In indie filmmaking.
I still don't believe it.
And the reason I've gained.
You're a businessman.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
It's never personal. No, it's fine that you do that. It's never personal. It is always business with me. There's a couple of people that it isn't so much, but we won't discuss that right now. But no, for the most part, the reason I put actors and actresses through that is because I want them to understand that Hollywood, they're much less lenient than I am. Oh. I mean, because there's millions of people who are trying to do this thing. Everybody wants to be a movie star. Everybody wants to be on screen. But once you see the inside of the industry and how it operates, you have to understand it is always a business. Art's great. Posters are great. Wearing an outfit and carrying a gun and running around. Oh, it's awesome. But the actual art of the deal, to quote another famous person, is business. It has to be sold. People have to buy it. you have to read a certain quota. You have to make a certain return on investment.
Exactly.
And
one of the reasons I refer to you as a powerhouse filmmaker is especially 3 Knee Deep. I mean, that happened. That was 4 days of filming, basically.
Yes.
4 weeks every Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think the editing on that was very. I
2.5 weeks, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was not much time, and
Yeah.
from what you said, they basically called you and said, "Get us what you got."
Oh God, don't bring that back up. Me and Paula, we have had some really horrific phone calls in our lives. That was probably the second most scariest. We had one, we had one in 2008. We had shot a film called Code Black, and this is another one that went worldwide. It was with a sort of nefarious film distributor, which I'm still in legal issues with. But anyway,
lovely.
So the guy from the film company called me. I'll never forget. Me and Paul are at Red Robin. I'm having a double cheeseburger of some sort, and she's sipping on a milkshake of some type. And the phone rings, and so she picks it up, says hello, and throughout the conversation, her face just gets visibly worse as each second passes. And then her mouth opens up, and she's looking at me, pointing, and I'm like, what? She hangs up the phone, and she says, so-and-so just called from Hollywood. They said they're not going to distribute the film unless we get these MFs to stop calling him in Hollywood. One of our actresses was pissed because we would not give her a clip from the film for her to use in her reel.
Wow.
This was before the film had been released, okay? And he didn't want any of these MFers, clowns, calling him at his office in Hollywood asking, can he go around me to get clips from the movie? Now, I cannot tell you the kind of anger that my wife had as we stormed out of that Red Robin. We took everything to go. We didn't finish the meal, obviously.
Right.
She went home and called the particular actress that had done this and called her every name but baby. And it was pretty interesting how that resulted. We didn't talk to that young lady for about 2.5 years afterwards. And for some reason, we allowed her to come back and act with us again, and then we had to fire her again because something similar. She didn't learn the first time.
Wow.
But anyway, long story short, with 3 Knee Deep, I'd finished editing, and we were looking at finished DVDs of the film. And the phone rings, and it's the sales guy, and he says, "You got to get to FedEx by 5 o'clock, and those DVDs got to go." And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I have a quality check these. Get to FedEx. I don't care what position, quality they're in, or whatever condition. Get them in a box. Get them shipped. So sure enough, I grabbed the first 2 discs that I had burned off of the DVD replicator, rushed to FedEx, give the woman my stuff. It goes to the duplicator. I think he's out in Minnesota somewhere. The very next day, he reproduces 12,000 copies. They are shipped to Redbox the minute they come off the presses, and then a week later, we were in Redbox.
Yeah, that was.
And it's how it works, It's and my wife and I, we're always waiting for that call now. She's, any film we do, it's like, so when is so-and-so going to call us to go to FedEx, FedEx. So I've established a good relationship with the FedEx people. When they see me coming, okay, Mr. Lee, we're ready. Let's go. Get out of here. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, it's scary, but at the same time, man, it's what you dream about. You always dream about being in a position where you're making a film and you have the knowledge before you shoot 1 foot of film that your film is sold. I mean, how does that happen anymore? There are thousands of filmmakers out there going, I just want a deal.
Yeah.
And typically they end up getting just a deal from whoever distributor, you name them, that will take their film, exploit them, and never give them a dime. Right. I'm lucky enough to be with a sales guy that, sure, he gets his cut. He deserves his cut.
Well, yeah.
But by the same token, I get paid. And let me tell you, it's nice to get a check after you've worked 3 months on something or longer. Or you've been in this business 40 years as I have been, where I spent the majority of my career not getting paid, getting ripped off, getting fooled, getting scammed, and finally having somebody you can put your trust in with a handshake. What are those? Do those days still exist? And receive a check afterwards. It just is a phenomenal feeling. And the other thing too is that to have a group of people behind you like yourself, and everybody we work with, it's like a family. Yeah. I mean, we communicate on Facebook, even if it's not about film. We just on Facebook talking about, hey, you see that so-and-so talking about us? Well, we got a little gang going on here. So it is nice to have, it is really nice to have a functional group, an ensemble cast of crew and actors and actresses who understand what we're trying to do. Because there are a lot of people out there, as you well know, that can't stand me. They can't stand the way that I do things because they don't understand that we are about the business. Right. We are not trying to make you happy. My job is not to make actors and crew members happy. My job is to get that film done so that when my sales guy calls and he says, you got 10 minutes to get to FedEx, the film is done, everything's been checked, we're ready to go. I can't help if you got cut out of the film. I can't help if your favorite shot is missing. A lot of my favorite shots were missing. I told my wife, damn it, I wanted that one punch. And she's like, what, Will? Send the damn movie off,
Because I remember in 6 Feet Below Hell, there was a Saturday that I spent running through the woods, busting my knees up, almost broke my toe. Didn't make it in the
Didn't make the cut. And the other thing, too, is Harlow Keith, my producer, we had a scene where he had worked out for 3 months for the scene we were going to do. We get to the set that day, and I said, Harlow, fight scene's out. And he looked at me like, what? I've been up at the gym 5 a.m. for 3 months waiting, and but he understood. And then we had a scene where we had to use makeup to seal his eyes shut so he couldn't see for an hour and a half with his makeup on. And that scene was cut from the film. So, that's an interesting topic you bring up is a lot of actors and actresses get really, really mad at you. Yeah. And it's like, bro, this is not personal. I have a running time I have to meet for the distributor. If I want to put your shot in there, well, now I've got to do all the scenes leading up to that shot. And then I got to have that match up with everything we've already shot. So now your 2-minute scene has now become 10-minute addition to the movie. And guess what? My bank account won't handle that. Yep. And neither will yours. We got to get it done. Yeah, we got to get it done, ship it. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to have to take a break here at the half. And actually, I just got to run down the hall.
That's a good thing.
So I'm going to take a little break. We're going to play some more Potter's Field, and I'll be back here shortly. What do you say, baby?
About 3 hours ago, our nation came under wide attack by an unknown foreign power.
Coming this summer. When biological warfare threatens extinction, the world needs a hero.
Inside this bag is the cure for the zombie virus. Ta-da! I'm going to save the world. How about you?
William Lee is Zachariah Stone in Cinema Lexicon's 6 Feet Below Hell.
Your kind is doomed.
That is one ugly mother. It wasn't so bad. Really?
Starring William Lee, William Regglesworth, Banza Townsend, and Aaron Perez. 6 Feet Below Hell. Available in Redbox this summer.
If you see someone that you know is dead and then come back to life, run!
All right, we're back on The Life. I'm your host, Don Smith, sitting in the studio with filmmaker William Lee, having a good conversation about filmmaking and actually being able to do it, because I've worked with a lot of directors that some of them just have. I've been cast over probably the past 5 years. I've been cast in at least 8 or 9 films that never got the first day of shooting, and that's because it's rough. I mean, just the first day on set for me not 3 Knee Deep, 6 Feet Below Hell, we lost our location.
Yes. Yeah.
And actually, you lost an actor.
Yes.
The day before, and that's how I got to be Reggie.
Right.
And I love Reggie.
Yeah.
But
Reggie almost got me a heart attack. I was editing a particular scene, which I'm not going to tell you what it was. You just need to rent the movie. But there was this one scene where on set we were dying, but watching it on film, I was editing. I have my own room to edit in, and my wife was running down the hall, thought I was having a heart attack. She said, "What the hell is going on in here?" I said, "I read you, Mike. You should see. Oh my God!" It was phenomenal. So yeah, we had a good time. And as far as losing actors, that brings up another subject. There are a lot of people that simply do not understand that just because you're doing independent film doesn't mean it's not professional. I'm sorry. Right. You have to maintain a professional atmosphere. And as we were talking about off air, the people that are in their films are really good actors. And you can tell the difference between a film that is poorly acted and one that where it looks like they just got their brothers and sisters and aunts and best friends and cousins and threw them in the film, which unfortunately in this region, a lot of people are into the friendship thing, and it is a big pet peeve of mine. You cannot cast your film with your best buddies. Sorry, you cannot do it because, one, you're not holding them accountable when they screw up. It's like, oh, it's okay. You know, you're my bud. We'll go have a beer and we'll joke about it. Well, the problem is that people who don't know you or your best bud are the ones paying for your film. So they don't understand this relationship that you have with each other. In fact, they shouldn't. They're a paying customer. They want quality. They want to see a film that they paid their money for and they're getting their money's worth. So there are a lot of filmmakers that I've had conversations about their films. There are a lot of people that come to me for advice. I have now gotten out of the advice-giving business because I just said, no, seriously.
That's very time-consuming.
Well, yeah, I don't have time because one question leads to another. Well, how should I cut this? And what did you think about this angle? And, like, I'm not trying to be a jerk or an a-hole again, but I am really, really busy with my own stuff. And a lot of these things they should just learn through trial and error. Now, if there's somebody that I'm really close to and I see something that I really got to speak out about, I'll tell them. I'll say, you know what, that lead actor you got, if you keep him in your film's done. You just can't have him in there. I did get out of the mentoring businesses because there are a number of other filmmakers who I've tried to bring along, and they were so full of ego and knew everything. It was like, why am I wasting my time? Because it doesn't matter what I say to you, you're going to do it your way anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to teach somebody that already knows
everything. So I have just become very silent. I've tried to do less online presence about lecturing people about what they're supposed to do, and basically I'm just concentrating on me now. I'm just trying to do what I do, and we are going to have some acting seminars coming up, but that's specifically for actors who are trying to get in the business. Me and acting coach Carl Rose, we're still working on dates and that kind of thing. I think next month.
Yeah, I think I saw a notice about that.
And it's going to be very different from what other actors and actresses have experienced in the area, because typically you go into a room and they give you this exercise and they're talking about visualizing and blah, 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 Stanislavski method or whatever. My deal is
then you do a lot of improv.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what you need to do to get into movies, and that is business.
Which improv is fun.
Yes,
it's a lot of fun. But it's only.
And
so
Carl
much.
Rose has a really unique. And Carl Rose has a really unique way of. He does the methodology part, the artistic part. And I'm doing the business side. So basically, when you come to the seminar, it's not just you're doing exercises and you're trying to do improv and that kind of thing. When that's over with, I give you the bad news, and that's important. You need to hear bad news because then it doesn't crush you so much when you don't get that part or somebody shot the film without you. And,
well, a related note with guys that were in before you today that were advertising for the Chapter Bar open mic show. That's one of those shows where you go to hear the bad news as a comic.
Yeah.
That's one of those shows where you go to not do so well.
Right.
And that's an important thing to every now and then be humbled.
Oh.
In your pursuit of everything.
You gotta be. I'm getting humbled this week, you know? It's like I'm getting phone calls from people I don't want to hear from, and they're telling me stuff I don't want to hear. So the humbling process goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, what you have to understand is that, you know, again, all these decisions are business related. Yeah, I like to be artistic. Sure, I like to do the fancy shots and the jib and the crane and the dolly and whatever. But when it comes down to it, the audience really has to be engaged in what you're doing. And getting back to actors, you have to have people that are really good.
Right.
And I'm really a stickler for that. I have this rule that when I do auditions, if I can do an audition in person, it's fine. But I think that it's important to do a video audition because that's where you're going to end up eventually.
Right.
So you might be really good in person, and then I get you on camera, and it's like, oh, my God, what was I thinking? So to me, it's not only faster, more convenient, and technology has sort of taken that process over. It's better for me. But I will warn all of you aspiring actors out there, be very careful how you prepare your audition tape. If there's something wrong with the audio and you've recorded a part of the clip where you're saying, dang, man, this audio, I don't know. And then you do your slate and then you start performing. Well, I'm like, oh, my God, you know, you're not self-aware. So I have an 8-second rule, and that is when I put your DVD in or your clip in, and I hit play, you have 8 seconds to impress me. Now, that may not seem like a long time, but it really is for directors because, first of all, I look at how you compose yourself before you start to speak. You know, are you frazzled? Do you look like the deer in the headlights? Or are you that character the minute you turn that camera on? And so if you haven't impressed me by the 8-second mark, well, now I go to my next level, which is like the 12 to 13-second mark, where I say, well, maybe he was just a little nervous.
Chance.
Yeah, wants to get himself together. If I have to watch 30 seconds of your audition tape to determine if you're in my movie, you are not in my movie.
Right.
It's just the way there's some kind of feeling you get after doing this so long about whether actors have it or they don't. And you either have it or you don't. There are exceptions where I see something where I say, I can work with them and try to make it work. Maybe give them a part that isn't so complex, or they have a real good look and I think it would work well on film. Give them a little less dialogue so you can work around those things. But if you're coming at me and you want to be in a film that I'm producing, just remember, there's 8 seconds that you really have to pull it out and give it to me. And I got that from a producer in Los Angeles who said that when he presented films to distributors, generally it was within the first 3 minutes first 8 pages of the film, they could determine if this was something they wanted to distribute. So all of you filmmakers out there who are obsessing over, well, you've got to put this special effect in that, remember, those first 8 minutes are very crucial to whether your film is going to get distributed. So bear that in mind. So all this other minutia that you're worried about, and, oh, yeah, we got the nude girl at minute 22. Well, by that time, the guy has tossed your DVD in the trash. Sorry.
Yeah, you got to start with something strong up front because these people are getting bombarded with all kinds of movies and all kinds of films, all kinds of scripts.
Until you get on the other side of that wall of selling versus you're producing to be sold, you really don't understand that. And I mean, when I was young, I was really upset when I would get rejected. It's like, hey, man, I'm William Lee, man. This is a good movie, man. And, it's like, well, there's about 50 people doing the same thing you're doing and probably with a little more money and probably with a little more talent. So
when you start out, you're like one of the people rejected from,
American Idol. Yeah.
I'm going to be big, man.
I have been likened to Simon Cowell a lot of times for how I do auditions and how I treat people. And again, it is not anything vindictive, but it's just like you have really got to understand it's a really crappy business because you meet a lot of really crummy people. I mean, they have their stuff together as far as selling movies and distribution and being producers, but as human beings, you sort of go, well, you know what? I don't want to know you outside of the business realm. It's like, here, you take this.
I'll let you do that. But
we're not going to dinner tomorrow. Right. Yeah, that kind of thing. So, and so, I always tell people and this one of my great mentors once said to me that the word show business has to be reversed. You always got to do business first. The show comes afterwards because without the business, there is no show. Right. I mean, you can have show all day long. Nobody wants to see the show. The show's over. Nothing you can do about it. So yeah, that's how that runs. I would say that for people who are just getting into the business is one, get your technical stuff down. Make sure everything because I won't say that will kill your career, but if you are a filmmaker as opposed to an actor and actress, you got to have good sound, you got to have good picture, and you have to have the editing. And this puts me off on another tangent. When I went to film school, we learned about Sergei Eisenstein, who did a film called Potemkin, and that was sort of the grandfather of all movies in terms of editing, because what he did was called editing, cutting on action, and that is taking non-related pieces of shots and putting them together to create a story. And so if you watch Potemkin, there's somebody coming down a set of stairs or there's a guy aiming a gun. Now, obviously, these were separate shots, shot at different times, probably in different locations. But once he cut them together, you swore that all this action was taking place right at that particular moment. In fact, there are films that I have where I'll get to a point in my edit where something is not matching up. I've got a gap I've got to fill. So now I go back into my footage, something we shot 3 weeks previous, and it may be just 3 seconds long. I cut that piece, put it in the middle. It was never intended to be there, but now it works because I have cut one end of that shot against the replacement part and then attached it to the other end of the shot that wasn't connected previously. You would not believe the kinds of clips that I've had to use to make scenes work because either we missed the shot or it was out of focus or it just did not work for whatever reason. So you have to be a puzzle maker, I think is the best way to put it. Yeah. Movies are a puzzle. You're always looking for those pieces to put in particular areas. If you are not strong as an editor, you probably shouldn't be editing. That is the thing I tell people. Find that one area that you're really strong in. In my case, I had to do everything because when I started, I had no money, no investors. No one was interested in a black guy trying to do kung fu movies in 1974. Not a young guy anyway. So I had to sort of like take bits and pieces, things I could get for free or ask for or beg for or work a job and then use my money from the job instead of going on vacations. And God bless my wife, she's put up with me for this long. We have missed so many vacations because we're always making movies or putting our own money into it or trying to arrange shooting or that kind of thing. So it is a sacrifice And again, it is a business. If you are not prepared to sacrifice trips, vacations, time with loved ones, don't do this. That's all I can tell you. It is a beautiful thing, but it is also like living in hell sometimes.
Yeah.
Because, you're out when we did 6 Feet Below Hell, we're out in 22-degree weather on a Saturday afternoon. Oh, yeah, that's where I want to be.
Oh, yeah.
Out in the snow, as opposed to being home watching football or basketball or whatever, So you have to get your priorities right if this is something you want to do. And it's just like with relationships. I had an actor who almost got divorced because he had to kiss another actress in one of our films. Now, look, I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you are with a significant other that does not understand that this is not real life, you should not do movies or you should get divorced. It's that simple. You will never succeed in this business if you have a jealous spouse. I'm sorry.
That's
because
true.
at some point, at some point,
have a hard time with
right?
it.
At some point, you're going to have a role where you're being romantic with somebody. I mean, it doesn't mean it has to be a sexual nature, but I mean, it's something like a kiss, or you're just really snuggling or really close to. There are significant others out there that get upset about that, and they're like, "Why do you really love them?" Like,
the first play I was in that my wife actually saw me. The play opened up. I think at the time I was like 35 years old, and I opened up with a 21-year-old actress in my lap, locked lips.
Oh,
that
boy.
was how the play opened.
Boy,
and that's the
probably...
first place she ever saw me.
Yeah,
that was a bit of a shock to her at first, but she realized it was acting, and that's the idea, But
well, the other issue too is that people who aren't in the business probably wouldn't get that at first. You sort of have to break it down for them. Like, this is what we do. We've blocked this out. We're not just running into bed and everybody's all over each other. There's a purpose for the scene and what we do. So, and I understand that, but by the same token, if they understand you are an actor, they have to understand that you live in a fantasy world for part of your day. That's just the way it is. And, they have to either get with that program or, I really can't do this. I mean, I had a really close friend who lived here in Columbus for a while, and he and I were martial arts buddies and everything. And his wife basically told him one day, "You know why I don't like what you do? Because I don't want you to succeed." Now, can you imagine your significant other actually saying that to you in your face, not cracking a smile and actually meaning that? So
that's
rough. So it was pretty bad. So they did eventually get divorced too. It was pretty sad. But she and I was her most hated enemy. She hated when that phone call came from William talking about we're filming Saturday. She couldn't stand it. So there's a lot of emotion involved in this quote unquote business too.
Yeah.
So
because I hear a lot that I'm never home.
Yeah, don't you hate that?
Yeah,
you're on set and that phone starts vibrating. It's like, oh my God, okay, let's wrap this shot up. Let's get out of here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just an actor, not a filmmaker.
Oh God.
So,
because it continues once you go home.
Because I've always wanted to. It's just getting. I'm the kind of person I like to prepare everything and have all my ducks in a row.
Right.
And sometimes, as a filmmaker, you can't do that.
No.
You got to go with the flow.
No.
And,
yeah.
But, well, back to that first day of shooting where we lost.
Where
we lost the location.
Yeah.
We had 2 hours of the day wasted.
Yes.
Found another location, got everybody there, and I think you still got everything shot.
We got done early.
Got done early. So that's what makes you William Lee.
Hey, I try.
As well.
Well,
I did years and years ago. One of the movies I was cast in that it would have been my first lead, and I was really excited about that. And it was a lot of fun. I got on the set. I wasn't in the first 2 weekends of filming, and I got on the set the third weekend to find out that they really didn't get anything filmed the first 2 weekends because half of their actors were friends and friends of friends, and they showed up. It was filmed at a bar.
Oh, geez.
And we started after the bar closed. So I guess most of their friends that showed up to film were drunk because they got to the bar several hours early and got prepared. So
prepared and peppered too.
And unfortunately, that movie never got finished, and it was such a great concept that just never got finished.
Yeah.
But
the route from conception to completion is a hard one. It's a long one. It's one that always changes. My biggest piece of advice to filmmakers is you have to learn to adapt. I'm sorry. Because nothing is ever going to go the way it's supposed to. And if you have the idea that you're going to go to a set and then it's going to just flow from A to Z smoothly, you probably shouldn't be in the acting business. I've had people walk off my sets because they're like, like, for instance, we lose a location. People start freaking out. Well,
Yeah.
what kind of operation is this? It's the real world.
Yeah.
It's independent film. This isn't Hollywood. I can't pay $10,000 location fee. We're basically relying on the generosity of property owners to let us come in and shoot. And I'm sorry, if they say get the hell out, we're out.
Yeah.
Got to move on. So you can't deal with that. You know, get a day job. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That same set, that same movie I was talking about, we almost lost our location there because one of our actors got in a fight with somebody at the bar.
Oh, fantastic. That's the way you do it.
Yeah.
That's how you get your career going. Keep right on punching, buddy. Love it. Jeez,
Yeah.
Louise.
So it's definitely just the little bit that I've been doing film. It's a new experience that it's one of those things I'm thrilled about because most people don't get to experience these things.
Yeah.
And I know I want to keep going with it. But,
yeah. Like I said, I've got my first 40 years under my belt, so we'll see how the next 40 go, man. I hope it's going to go better, but you know,
there you go.
But it's a blast. It really is.
Well, can we talk for we only got a little bit left, but I do want to throw out since there may be something happening with Straight Outta Hate.
Yes,
can we talk a little bit
the
about
other film?
that?
Yeah, we shot this
because
4 films.
I think that's a very important film.
Straight Outta Hate is a film about political oppression and how one revolutionary decides to strike back at the government. And surprisingly, there have been a couple of political events that have happened over the past few weeks that actually mirror what goes on in this film. And I'm not going to give that away, but I just suffice it to say it is a film that has a really strong political statement, and it just talks about how Americans deal with an oppressive government. So, you know, if you're really about political thrillers and that kind of thing, I think it's really a really great film. It's a film that I was tentative to do because I've done that kind of thing before, but emotionally and physically and spiritually, it is very draining because you're talking about stuff that's very uncomfortable.
Right.
But I think we did it in a way that people will be able to enjoy the film without coming out of there saying, "Oh, William Lee, he's a communist," or "William Lee, he's a right-wing nutbag." You know, they'll come out of there saying, "Wow, I've never seen it done like that before."
Well, I got I was one of the cast that got to see it during the preview, and I was very impressed by it. I've been telling a lot of people that I think it's an important movie to watch.
Yeah,
and that's why it's one that we hope can get out to a wider audience.
And one thing I want to mention,
I said that to a comic, and he said, "Did you say whiter or whiter?" And I said, both equally important.
Exactly. And the one last thing I'll say before we go is it's going to be in very limited release on Redbox. So we need people to really go out and rent this when it first comes out, because obviously Redbox is a little nervous about an explosive picture like this. But when it comes out, we'll let everybody know. Please go rent it. Tell everybody about it. Let's get it spread out there as much as we can. And if that happens, then we go even wider.
Absolutely.
We get paid.
And that's the important part. Well, I appreciate you coming in to talk. It's been a pleasure having you in the studio. It's been an honor to work with you in several movies, and I hope that continues.
Oh, we got a lot more to do.
Awesome. But get out this weekend. Check out 6 Feet Below Hell out in Redbox and see what all the fuss is about.
Yes.
So great movie. It's great having you in the studio. Thank you very much for coming in. We will be back next Wednesday. We'll be back Wednesday from noon to 2 at our regularly scheduled time. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the Life Podcast. If you want more, and I sure hope you do, you can check out older episodes on podbean.com. The shows come out on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you want to listen live, we're on WWSU 106.9 FM, or you can stream live at wwsu1069.org. And as always, if you have suggestions or comments, feel free to email thelife1069@gmail.com.
You're going to do it your way anyway.